Okay, guys, welcome to today's episode of EmpowHERing Coffee Convos. I'm Jessi, founder and chief empowerment officer of This Way to Fabulous. And today is super exciting. Today, I'm here with Diana Keller. She is an author, a motivational speaker, a one-on-one life coach. She is also the host of her own podcast, Keep Moving Forward. Okay, I just loved that. Like, as soon as I heard her podcast name, I was like, okay, I love this girl. So, you guys know that I'm a huge advocate for creating a connection and, getting a damn conversation going. Okay. Like, I'm huge on this. And so it's a really special episode because Diana is actually launching a book. It is a brand new book. It is about to be released and it is called Stop Talking About the Weather. Okay. I mean, real talk. She had me at the title because I was like, yes, preach. Yes. Like, hallelujah. Okay. I cannot wait to dive into this with you because I just know that you guys are going to be obsessed with this too. Okay. So before we start, Diana, can you tell everybody a little bit about yourself? Just like a quick synopsis of, who you are and maybe where you are in your life right now.
Absolutely. So hi, everyone. My name is Diana Keller. As she said, I am a motivational speaker. I'm a one-on-one coach. I'm a podcaster. I'm an author. I do all the things. And I'm actually in a huge transition in my life right now because all of this is really actually brand new. So I just launched my LLC in May. My book is coming out on August 18th. So that's the pre-order date. The official launch date is September 1st. So everything is so brand new, but my brand Keep Moving Forward has been in the works kind of for the last couple of years. So being able to actually put it into practice I'm in a huge transitional phase right now.
Transitional is fine. You know what? Moving is moving no matter how the steps. Okay. I'm also a huge advocate for like owning the season that you're in, both in life and in business, and so like, I'm excited to hear that this is all new to you because I think that a lot of my listeners are very much in a new-ish season of their business. And so it's really exciting to talk to people kind of like in real time about how this process is going for you, how, what struggles you're having and things like that. So I'm like super excited about it. So, so I'm obviously super excited to have you here. I love to share the mic with like-minded boss babes who just are so sick and tired of that awkward and like, honestly, useless conversation. Okay. So before we get into the juicy book details, let's talk a little bit about the journey that like got you here.
Absolutely. So the journey, kind of as I just said, it's so lengthy because I am a former high school math teacher. So in 2020, I actually chose to leave teaching prior to COVID. It just kind of worked out that it was a good transitional time. But I left teaching in 2020. I moved into the corporate space. And once I moved into the corporate space, like I said, this brand has been kind of building since then. I launched a blog in May of 2020. In November of 2021, I launched my podcast, Keep Moving Forward. And then really just this year, I created my LLC, I wrote my book, and now I'm really beginning to start doing more things like live events and life coaching and all of these things. So the background to get here was rich and it was lengthy. I mean, a lot of people think that, oh my gosh, I'm going to quit my job and do everything full time and go full force. But it really took a lot of patience and a lot of experience to get me to the place where I was comfortable writing and launching my book, where I was comfortable taking on speaking events and one-on-one coaching and that sort of thing. So it's been a journey for sure.
Well, I am, for one, all about the journey because I feel like I talk about it a lot, but the destination, like I don't like destinations. I do not like destinations because what happens a lot of times is we get to a destination and then we're like,
this is it.
Well, what the fuck? Like now what?
Exactly.
And so I am all about the journey. And I love that you are talking about not only the journey itself, but how hard it was and how lengthy it was. And like, I talk to so many businesses about their goals, and a lot of times their goals are so unrealistic because they want things yesterday. Okay. Like we're humans. We want things yesterday. We all want things yesterday. I'm not going to sit here and say like, I know, mighty, I don't want anything yesterday. God, we're all human. Like that's fine. But being able to recognize that and sort of like take steps to pull yourself back and, you
Mhm.
know, get realistic expectations,
Yes.
like about what that journey could be, and
Mhm.
trying not to be frustrated through the journey and how
Yeah.
slow the journey is, because the journey is the journey. The journey is the magic. The journey is where you learn.
Yes.
Like
And
I preach this like every day to my clients, because that's just like, it's so huge.
and,
So
and and it's so important too, just because in the journey you learn so much, and you might say, you know what, I actually need to take a turn here or take a turn here. Like I started my blog thinking that's what it was going to be, but then I realized, no, I want to do podcasting. No, I want to write a book. Like, it's because of the journey and the experience that I have been able to really become clear on what I want. So it's so incredibly
1,000%.
important. Yeah.
1,000%. And I think that it's really key to learn how to pivot. And I
Mhm.
know that some people are better than others at pivoting, but guys, people are better than other people at all kinds of things. Like, that's fine. Like, not
Mhm.
being the best at it doesn't mean that it's something that you shouldn't pursue, right?
Mhm.
So like
Mhm.
pivoting has been a huge part of my story. You know, I
Yes.
lived one life for 10 years and everything changed. I lost everything and I had no choice but to pivot.
Mhm.
And so it's just, it's a really interesting thing. And it's one thing to like be in the journey, but it's another thing to be in the journey, like
Absolutely.
to pay attention to the things that are happening in the journey. And you know, the realization of things don't happen to you, they happen for you, and they're part of
Yes.
that journey, and they are part of what makes you who you are today, and what you're doing today be so memorable, and be so
Mhm.
like such
Oh, so
a
much.
bigger thing than just like you reached it to your destination.
And there's so much psychology about that, about
Absolutely.
the waiting period, and how that waiting period is actually more exciting than the actual arrival. And they talk about that a lot with like vacations. Like, the anticipation of going on vacation is actually in some cases more fulfilling than the actual vacation. And that
Absolutely.
can be extended, like same with the
Absolutely.
journey of our lives.
Hell yeah, the packing and the traveling, screw
Yeah.
that.
Right.
I don't care for that part.
Right. Fair.
Okay,
100%.
so the journey is obviously important, but I
Mhm.
want to know, like, I'm dying to know, was there an exact moment that you just like had an aha moment, or like you just had this moment where you decided, like, you put your foot down and you made this decision to, you know, bring this book idea to like life and like into reality? Like, did you have a specific moment,
I
or was it
did.
like, okay,
Yeah, so it's actually such a funny story. And I don't know if you've ever read the book Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. If not, 10 out of 10, 12 out of 10. Yes, right
it's
there.
literally on my desk.
Okay, so I love this book so much. And for those of you who haven't read the book, Big Magic is all about accepting what the universe is sending to you, because the universe is sending us messages. And in December of 2021, I just kind of had a fleeting thought of, you know, like, it would be really cool if people had prompts and quotes and conversation starters to help initiate better conversation, because I think a lot of us struggle with communication, or even what to talk about. I mean, how often
If someone's going to stop here and
Yeah.
say, I don't have problems with communication, I'm going to call your bluff.
That's
Every
right,
single
that's
person
right.
has a problem with it on one level or another. So like, we're
Mhm.
not going to sit here and say that anybody is exempt. Nobody is exempt.
100%. And like, even I like will come home at the end of the day and say, you know, to my husband, like, oh, how was your day? Cool. And then that's it. And so like, I realized that, and I was like, you know what, this is something that I think is needed. And then I can remember it was December 18th of 2021.
Wow, a specific
I remember.
date. That is wild.
I remember. And a friend of mine, Arden, he had texted me. He's like, you know what, like, kind of jokingly said, he's like, our friend group needs to do the like 20 questions game to get to know each other again. I was like, Arden, like, you don't understand. Like, I was literally just this week thinking about this. And I was like, okay, for the fleeting thought, that was big magic. And then I was like, this is really big magic. This is the universe saying, Diana, I am putting this on your plate. Either run with it or I'm giving it to somebody else. And so that was the moment that I was like, okay, I'm writing this book. And so I began to kind of just start jotting down questions and things that I thought people might be able to talk about that would give them more authentic conversations. And so that's how Stop Talking About the Weather was created. And even the title, like, it was literally big magic. The universe hit me upside the head one day. It was like, stop talking about the weather. That's the name of the book. And that's what it's always been. I've never changed it. It came to me one day and I was like, okay. And so this book is truly meant, it's a compilation of 100 questions, quotes, conversation starters. And it's all designed to help you stop talking about the weather, because how often is that what we default to when we don't know what else to talk about?
And can I just ask the question, like, where the hell did that even start? Like, where did that even come from? Like,
Right.
why was that, like, why is that
Yeah.
such a default?
And so what I think it is it's in the way my math brain, I was a math teacher. So my brain said it's the lowest common denominator. It's the smallest and easiest thing that we all have in common that we can easily talk about because we all experience it. And so that's where that came in. And so the stop talking about the weather is stop defaulting to that lowest common denominator. Start thinking and start having questions or asking questions that are meaningful, that actually get you somewhere.
For sure. And like, if you think about it, the weather, you know, there are finite options for you to choose from. Like, right. Like, it's literally A, there's no wrong answer.
Right.
B, even if it's not the weather, like that, if you're incorrect, it's like there's no wrong answer.
Right.
And it's more like, it's kind of like taking a test and multiple choice versus like infinite versus an essay where it's like about infinite opportunity.
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
Like, it is absolutely that. Like, even like thinking back in school, it was always like, gosh, I hope that there's a multiple choice question, because then I know that I can at least like choose.
Right. It's a lot easier for me to select from a specific pool than having to create my own answer. And
I love what you just said about that, though. I love that you just said that it's easier, because that is something that we also all struggle with, is choosing the easy route, choosing the easy road. And so if we think about it too, you know, this default question of like, what about the weather? You know, that default question is so God, I can't even think of the right word. It is such an easy way out.
It's a cop-out, like
having a real conversation. And that just goes to show that as humans, we are so obsessed with easy way outs when things get uncomfortable. And I think that's a huge premise of this podcast for me too, is to get uncomfortable, because when you get uncomfortable, you grow, you find out new things, you learn more about yourself, you learn more about others. Like, it is so huge. Like, I just, oh my God, I'm so passionate about that topic. Like,
I love it.
I could talk about it all day long, but we don't have all day, so we're not going to talk about it all day. But so here we are. It is August. How I don't know. It is August 2022. So if you're listening in real time, she is just a few weeks out from this book releasing. Okay, so here we are. You know, the book is in its final stages. Like, are you just like reeling with excitement? Like, are you like?
It was so funny because I was talking with my publisher the other day, and she's like, "We're just about done. We just have to upload it." And it was like that Michael Scott in The Office, like, "It's happening moment." I was like, "Oh my God, this is real."
Are you feeling like all the feels? Like, are you like excited? Are you nervous? Are you scared? Are you like, what are the feelings?
Like, I feel excited. I feel overwhelmed. I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen next? Like, it's so surreal is what it is.
Yeah, for sure. Well, all of those emotions are tied to being in the journey. So I will classify you with my degree and God knows what, I will classify you as being in your journey, because if you were just like, oh yeah, I'm excited, I will be like, no, girl, you are not feeling all the feelings.
That's right. This isn't the real journey.
Yes, exactly. So, okay. So here we are, you know, like, I'm sure it's a breath of fresh air. Can you share with us maybe like one or two of the hardest parts of the journey, some of the struggles or something that, you know, might have set you back along the way?
Definitely. So I started this book in December. So I said December 18th, and like December, January.
Like just this last December?
Yeah, like 2021.
Damn, girl.
So December, January, like I was vibing. I was doing a great job of like staying on top of it and making it a priority. And then right around February, like I just kind of started losing motivation. And it was like, I would sit down and like, nothing's coming to me. I would experience that writer's block. And then additionally, I didn't have any skin in the game. Like, I didn't tell anyone what I was doing other than just like in passing, like, oh, I might write a book. Like, that sounds cool. And so I didn't have the drive to do it, and I didn't have the accountability to do it. And accountability is huge. Oh, it's so big. And I can tell you, it was April 11th. I went back and I looked at my text for this date, but April 11th, Lori Harder. So she is
love her.
Yes.
Obsessed.
So you know
love
who Lori Harder is.
love her, love her,
So,
love her. Guys, I will actually link out her show also in the show notes because her show is also game changing. Like I am obsessed with her podcast as well. Sorry, continue.
So no, you're good. You're 100%. So she has a texting community that I'm a part of. And on April 11th, she sent out a text that says, she said, be honest with yourself. What's the one thing that you've been putting off that you know will push you forward? And I was like, okay. I was like, I have to finish my book. Like it wasn't an option at that point anymore. And so as soon as I got that text message and I was like, this is meant for me, I was like, I need to get some skin in the game. I need to be accountable for this book. And so that's when I started to post on social media to share it with more people. And not only did that give me accountability, but it gave me the motivation, because seeing other people and hearing other people say, oh my God, I need that book, or oh my gosh, I can't wait to see your book. Like that gave me the drive to actually do the damn thing, to sit down, to write the book, to finish the book, to push it out and really strive for it. So that loss of motivation and that loss of accountability was what held me back. But as soon as I had those two things, it was so easy for me to drive to the end and get that book done.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like, accountability is a two-way street sometimes too. And I think that a lot of times we look outward to find somebody or a community or whatever to hold us accountable. But I think it's important to realize that you are the other half of that puzzle. Like you also have to hold yourself accountable. You can't just rely on somebody else to do that.
Absolutely. And it was realizing that other people needed this book that made me be accountable for myself, because I knew if I didn't do this, I was letting people down.
Yeah,
and so that was that accountability piece internally that I knew that I needed to live up to.
Absolutely. And I think that it's important to note that as humans, we all need affirmation sometimes. We all need feedback sometimes to know, to feel good about ourselves. And there's nothing wrong with that. There, obviously there's an amount that would be unhealthy of needing that feedback. What's the right word? I don't know why I can't think of the right word.
External validation.
Validation. That was it. That's the word that was on my tongue. And it's, we all as humans need validation, and how much validation we need is kind of up to us. And like I said, there is an extent that is unhealthy. And
for sure,
I lived that life for, X many years.
I did too. I went to therapy for that life.
Exactly. Same. So, we all have that tendency. But I think it's important to note that it's okay to need validation sometimes. It's okay. And from a marketing perspective, I teach a lot of my business clients to get it out there, to see if it's something that your community reacts to. And I'm not saying that if nobody reacts, your idea is stupid. That is not the case. But getting some validation from your community on a service that you're about to offer helps you, not only gives you skin in the game, but also helps you build that idea and build on that idea, because now that people are involved, people want this, people,
it's a need, right? Yes, exactly. Without that feedback, you won't know what your community needs and be able to provide that. Absolutely. So, okay. So the sneak peek that I got of the book, my favorite part was reading the area about how versatile this book is. Okay. So, for anyone who doesn't know me, I am that person who is in a million directions. I want to do as much as I can all at one time because that's efficient in my mind. It's if I can touch 5 things at one time, I feel like I had a good day. If I do one thing all day, I am I got nothing done. Okay. So I obviously love all the tools that are versatile, and they help me do things efficiently, and they don't beat around the bush. So my favorite part is definitely the versatility, because I think to me it's just this all moments that you turned a book opportunity, an idea,
into something so much bigger than that. So like reading the parts that I got to read, I was very much like, God, I wouldn't even consider this a book. Like it is a book, but it's like, oh,
right, exactly.
It's like, obviously there are just like, it's just, okay. So just, I'm going to shut up, but talk more about the versatility of this book, because I think that for me and a lot of my listeners who are a lot like me, I think they are going to just lose their minds over this. So please talk about the versatility of this project. I'm not even going to call it a book, this project.
Yes. So whenever people are like, oh man, I can't wait to read your book. And I'm like, well, that's not exactly how you don't read the book.
It's a fresh take. I mean, like you are starting something new.
It's not a book that you read cover to cover. In fact, it can be a book. It can be a journal. It can be something that you literally pull out of your purse when you're sitting at dinner. Like it is so versatile because it can be used in so many situations. So it can be as simple as a quick reference tool, or it can be something that you sit down with on a daily basis and write and journal and have conversations with yourself on. And so I'll kind of give a little bit of the backstory of the way that this book is organized. So it's organized into 5 chapters where the depth of the chapter increases throughout the book. So chapter 1, so I'll actually tell you guys exactly what I kind of say each chapter is perfect for. So chapter 1 is perfect for things like introductory conversations, first time meetings with people. If you're talking to coworkers in the office, chapter 1 is right up your alley. Chapter 2 is perfect for when you just don't know what to talk about. You're having a good conversation. There's a little bit of a lull. Chapter 2 is perfect to kind of dive in. If you're wanting to gather more information or learn about others or just fill empty spaces in conversation, that's what chapter 2 is for. Chapter 3 is really good for getting to know people on a deeper level, things like family gatherings. And I love this part. It's like questions that make you go, They're like ones that make you think a little bit before you respond, but it's not ones that you have to sit and kind of mull over. Chapter 4, we're really kind of getting a lot deeper. And this is what I say is perfect for turning good friends into great friends, or journaling, uncovering feelings and emotions. And then chapter 5, I actually say chapter 5 is really almost reserved for you and you only until you're ready to have these conversations, because they're really deep. It requires a lot of self-reflection. It requires a lot of awareness. And it really is perfect for things like talks with best friends where you feel comfortable being vulnerable, because the chapters, and one thing that I say in the introduction is this book is not filled with just all happy feelings. Like it really unearths a lot of challenging thoughts and a lot of things that you may have taken time to bury deeply over years. And so this book is so versatile because it ranges from everything from lighthearted fun, we're going to joke and laugh, to wow, I need to sit with this for a long time before I feel comfortable talking about this. And beyond that, I don't know if you're familiar a lot with Brené Brown's work, but she is like I love Brené Brown so much. And one of the things that she says in a lot of her books is you have to be very mindful about connection and who you're connecting with, because some conversations are not meant for people. Some conversations are really only meant for the people who deserve to hear that from you, who deserve to hear your story. And so I think, and at least in my experience of sharing my book, people immediately want to jump to chapter 5. And I'm like, I would actually encourage you not to, because you don't want to create a false sense of vulnerability. You want to create a real authentic connection, and you have to build up to that. You can't just dive in with chapter 5 with someone you just met, because they don't deserve to hear that from you yet. You have to really be conscientious about that. So like I said, it can be used internally for self-reflection. It can be used in a lighthearted manner, or it can be used anywhere in between.
I love that you just were talking about people wanting to jump to the end, because I think that it's so funny, because as humans, we're all like, I'm going to prove you wrong. Yes. I don't need to lift 8 pounds before I can lift 80 pounds. Like It is just our nature to be like, you're not going to tell me what I can handle. I'm going to show you that it's just like this. Like, so in the last 3 years for me, I have absolutely dug into personal development. And so because I have gone through that journey, I can absolutely say that you need to start small, or you will never, even if you get to level 5, you will not maintain it without the tools that you get and that you build in levels 1 through 4. Okay. Like, so I can tell you that as a graduate or whatever you call it of like doing a lot of personal development work, it is not possible. Okay. So stop trying to prove yourself as like better than everybody else because you can jump to chapter 5. Like stop with like all of that.
Stop with the facade. And that's actually something that Brené Brown wrote in her book that just struck me. And actually, as I'm doing my live events, I'm going to talk about it. And she goes, when you do that, when you are like, immediately, I'm going to jump to chapter 5, I'm going to be a complete open book, so incredibly vulnerable. What that does is actually creates a very false sense of vulnerability because it's a show. It's how vulnerable can I be? Whereas when you're having those tough conversations, if it's real, it's hard. And you can't just go into, so a lot of the events I'm doing are at breweries. You can't just go into a brewery, sit down with your beer, and then immediately get to that deep conversation because it's not real. It's what show you're wanting to put on in that moment.
1000%. My brain's going in a million directions right now, but 1000%. And I think it is so interesting to, you know, think about it that way because if you were to meet someone for the first time and, you know, you're for the first minute, you're talking about the weather.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they ask you a level 5 question and you are so turned off by the fact that this person is like so up in your face, whether or not they truly have that confidence or that vulnerability. Like, oh Jesus, like, whoa, slow your roll, you know, and, like think about all those times you had conversations with someone who jumped from A to Z and you were just like, whoa.
And then the other piece of that is like, you don't necessarily know if you can trust their answer. Like, again, like, are they just putting on a show? Like, or is this their real life? Do they feel comfortable sharing this with a stranger? Like, what might be going on in their world that they feel they need to do this? And so that's why I think it's important to be vulnerable, but pump the brakes and do it so mindfully. And that's why these chapters were created, because if not, it's like you're thrown in and be like, oh, okay, we're talking about this now. And it can be very uncomfortable.
Very, very much. And the wrong kind of uncomfortable, not the kind of uncomfortable where you're like, gosh, this is scary. Like, this is the like, whoa, like, are you going to follow me home and like murder me in my sleep? Like, this is a totally different like version of that. Okay. So side note, because my brain won't stop thinking about it. I'm super curious to know why you chose breweries as most of your places, because my boyfriend brews. He is planning to open a brewery and we actually, it is hilarious, but like, so we actually brewery hop all over the US, like every time we're traveling, and we take a little Polaroid camera with us and we call it our adventure cam, and we take it with us. We take a picture at every brewery we go to, and we have some of the most deep and meaningful conversation and like dreaming and like plan making when we're at breweries. And so it's kind of been this joke that like breweries just like help our mind, and it's I'm really intrigued when you say that the majority of your things are breweries, so like I have to know.
So we could spend a lot of time on this. So actually I'm in the brewing industry. So my husband is a head brewer at a brewery. I do marketing and events coordination for a brewery.
I'm going to have to get the name of that brewery so that we can plan a trip. Okay. Thanks. Bye.
So Cincinnati, Ohio, tiny little place called Fibonacci Brewery. And so there was that piece of where I was already somewhat in the industry. So it was kind of an easy place for me, but also there's a lack of women in beer and lack of women representation in the beer community and the breweries. And so because my book can be used by absolutely anyone, but for the live events, it was really meant for more women. When I pitched to the different locations, I was like, this is an excellent opportunity to bring women into the beer community and not only introduce them to one another, but introduce them to breweries and the different things that breweries do for women and the ways they can be represented at breweries. And so it was kind of an easy way for me to go because I was in the industry, but it allowed me to serve another area of where can we represent women in breweries as well.
I love that. I love that you're like, super sorry, my headphones are pulling my hair out. I love that you are trying to take something that society has built into such a man's industry and you are breaking that stigma. That is incredible. Like I am like extra mind blown right now because that is incredible. I am like so on board with all this. If you come up to a Chicago brewery, like you let me
oh my God.
It's like
Microphone is like, it's, I know it's not in Chicago, but Microphone
we're in the
is like,
suburbs. I know exactly
I
where.
love Microphone. It's one of my favorites.
What do you know what town it is in? I can't think of what town it's in.
Oh gosh, I cannot off the top
It's
of my
okay.
head.
It's close to me. My boyfriend loves that
I love
brewery.
Microphone. There's
They
another one
sell
called,
it in our grocery
yes.
stores. Like
like
if you come here for that, you let me know.
I absolutely will. I absolutely will. So yeah, like, and when I was pitching, like, it was so incredible because some breweries reached out to me and was like, I would love you to do a live podcast, or I would love you. So there's
That's
one
cool.
brewery. Yeah. One brewery. You probably have heard of them, Mad Tree. They're a pretty popular one in Cincinnati.
I feel like I've heard of it. I'm
probably. But they do an ascending women event, and they're like, I think we would love to have you as a panelist on those events. So like, it was just an awesome segue into, again, how can I serve not only women, but in this specific community as well.
Okay, so as you're saying this, I have to say this. It is so important for you guys that are listening to see and hear that the opportunities that arose from her being a part of this journey and being immersed in this journey and taking freaking chances, asking people and letting them know that this opportunity and how that snowballs into things. You cannot be afraid to take that first step, especially if it's, I mean, the fact that it's breweries and it's just like, you know, society, man's community, screw that. But like, taking those steps and those chances in places that seem uncomfortable or that seem like, oh my God, I'm so excited for you that that this snowballed so much, and then it made so much sense, and what you're giving back to the female community about what you're doing with not only the book, but your choice of how you're launching the book. Like, I'm like sweating. I'm like, oh my God.
I need to say, like, because exactly what you said, like, I knew that the outcome was going to be the same, whether I didn't pitch or I pitched and they didn't respond, the outcome was the same. So why not take the chance for a potentially different outcome? And I sent like 30 emails, and I had about 15, 16 respond, and every single one of them said yes. But if I hadn't even taken the chance, because if I had written myself off to begin with, I wouldn't be doing all of these events. And so you really have to put yourself out there, because you have to ask yourself, if I don't put myself out there, it's a guaranteed no-go. It's a guaranteed fail. But if I at least try and something comes up, then I'm in a better situation than I could have ever been any other time.
1,000%. And like, I want to encourage you, everybody listening, to think about this for a second. Okay. If something is hard, if taking a step is hard and uncomfortable and you're like, I don't know, think about this. How much harder is it going to be for you to live with the fact that you will never know what could have happened?
Oh, so much.
What could have happened in that moment, and what could have snowballed? What opportunities could have come a year later, 2 years later, from that one freaking chance that was uncomfortable and you were just so unsure of yourself? Like, you tell me what feels harder. Not taking that step or having to live with the fact that you will never know what could have been.
Yep. Woo, got chills.
I don't want to drop my mic, but like, mic drop, right?
Right. Oh,
okay. So I don't want to keep everybody here all day, but so I know that you got to like use the book a little bit, like while you were writing it. And I'm sure that like really helped sort of like guide you in, you know, some of those directions. So can you tell me, like, maybe one, maybe two, what the most memorable conversation you had while you were using the book? Like, what chapter was the most game changing for you when you were testing it, when it was in beta with your friends?
So I will say that I think the most impactful conversation was actually the one that I had with my husband, and I tried to do a question with him and he immediately shut down. And everyone would be like,
I know that life so well.
And I'm like, and everyone's probably like, wait, why was that the most impactful? And what it did is it opened my eyes to ways that I needed to amend my book to serve a different audience, because I'm a huge extrovert and I like to talk about these things, but my husband is a huge introvert. And so having to answer a question on the spot like that was somewhat triggering for him. He immediately shut down.
So should we be warning men everywhere about this book coming out?
Just so you know, your wives
there should be like a PSA.
Right? Your spouses, significant others, friends, all of them, they're coming at you with it. But what it did is it really opened my eyes to ways I needed to change the book, and in an introduction that I needed to include in the book to say, hey, like, my approach didn't always work, and here's maybe a different approach. Maybe do things like give them the book ahead of time, or maybe like give them time to journal or think about things. Set the question on the table and said, hey, we'll come back to this. And that in and of itself was so impactful, because I realized I was missing a subset of people. I was not serving an audience by what I had excluded from my book, which was boundaries and like ways the book can be used. And so that actual conversation was the biggest in outlining the book differently and providing context. In terms of the actual usage of the book in a really impactful time, I'll say, I was talking with Sam again, my husband, and then my friend Arden, who was the one who really kind of was the final nail in the coffin that I was going to write this book. And we sat and we did questions from chapter 1, chapter 5, chapter 3, everything in between. And after he left that evening, he sent me a text and goes, I haven't had a real authentic conversation like that in a really long time. He goes,
you never know what you're missing until you know what you're missing.
Right. And he was just like, I needed that to remember what our friendship was. Not that our friendship was ever strained, but it gave it a new level of depth. And since then, it has been so much easier for us to open up and be vulnerable with each other about what's going on. And again, that opportunity, we might be in a more disconnected place if that had never happened. And it was just, again, so simple as just having something lighthearted, something heavy, but everything to just bring us to a moment where we felt comfortable being vulnerable.
Yes. Wow. I love that. And I love that you pulled some men into the testing.
Yes.
But I mean, real talk, you knew that the guys were going to turn it down like right away, because that's just a man thing. Like, I don't think I have ever met a man who is just like, yeah, well, yeah. It was like, no. Okay, well, maybe. Okay, let's talk. Like,
just so much more guarded at first. And again, like, why those beginning chapters are important to kind of set the stage for getting to a more vulnerable place.
Absolutely. And when we talk about, I mean, if any men are listening to this podcast, I don't know, they're probably going to be really mad at me in a minute, but I feel like it's scary. And I feel like men in general, I'm trying to be as nice as I can here. I feel like men in general want to run away when things get scary. And don't get me wrong, women, we want to run for sure. Like, there are plenty of situations where we are like, nope, I'm out, peace. But I feel like it's a little bit easier for women to acknowledge that they have that tendency, whereas men will have that tendency and then they will say that they do not have that tendency.
And that is their flight response.
Yes, but yes, it becomes fight or flight. And it's this like really scary thing. I think they're scared for what's going to come out, and they like weren't ready for, like, they didn't like think enough, and like they're afraid what's going to come out. They're afraid what's going to happen afterwards. And instead, women have this like this vibe where they're like, they have fear of those same things, but they're also afraid of what won't happen.
Yes.
Or what will happen if they do not have that discussion, and if they do not address it, and if they do not. So I just think it's really interesting psychology, type of thing. Like, we're all afraid of things. Lori Harder just texted me. I don't know why I should edit that out, but Lori Harder like texted me on my other screen, and we were just talking about her.
Yes.
So it's scary. Obviously these things are scary. And I think that a lot of my listeners are going to love the idea of this book, that it is self-paced, that it's not a front to back, that it's like all these things. Many of the women that I work with and that listen to this podcast are going to be incredibly interested in this book. However, if they are anything like me, they are also probably scared. And
Yes.
like,
Oh, yes.
wow, I love this. But like, and then probably like when it comes out, they're gonna be like, oh, I love this. I'm gonna buy this. And then they're gonna get in there and be like, put that on the shelf because I'm just a little too scared of this for right now. So for those people, myself included, so like if you're there nodding your head, like I'm with you, girl. Okay, what advice do you have for us who are really, really intrigued by this idea, but we're also really scared?
Yes. So I kind of looked at this fear in two different ways. There could be the fear of the feelings that come up, especially things related to shame and guilt and embarrassment. All of those feelings are feelings you might feel throughout the book, just as much as joy and excitement and happiness, but you're going to feel all the feelings, all of them. And so if you're scared of that, I absolutely understand. And that's why I want you to really take it slow through this book. So like, just as I just said with my husband, he kind of immediately shut down because that was not something that he could do in real time to process those thoughts, to process those emotions, and really speak them out loud before he had time to think through them. And so if that is something that is a struggle for you, my biggest suggestion is use the book as a journal. Use it to really get to know yourself before you get to know others, because that's part of communication, is not just external, it's internal communication too. It's how do I speak to myself? Do I even know myself? Do I know my likes, my dislikes, what brings me joy, what hurts? So that's my biggest suggestion for you. If that's the fear, is I just don't know how to have these feelings and what will come up. Use that as a journal. Go through it slowly. Like, this is your own pace, as you said. Like, it is meant to be used in a way that's productive and doesn't sever ties. Again, even internally, like, this is not supposed to be an attack on your feelings or anything like that. Just like start to learn. It's the visualization that I have is like being able to savor a good piece of food. Like, you just sit with it and savor it. Like, same thing with your feelings. So if your fear is that, take your time, go through it slowly. Nobody's pressuring you. This is something to work through at your own speed. And then if the fear is not knowing how to bring this up in conversation, so things like, I really want to use this, but I don't know how to just like throw it in there. So my big suggestion there is start from the beginning. Don't feel like you need to jump in with chapter 3, chapter 4, chapter 5 questions. And even if it's something like you're like, I'm just going to write a few of these down like on a card and have them at the ready so that, you know, it allows me to fill in space. It doesn't have to be like, let me whip out this book and show you what we're going to talk about. Like, it can be as simple as just having a few questions like on deck. But realizing that as the conversation progresses, like, you might be able to bring the book in or get a little bit deeper. And then with that, I do also want to say the caveat that it's really important to respect other people's feelings as well. Like, so if you're wanting to bring it in and you're scared to bring it in and somebody doesn't respond well, just know that that's like hey, let's pump the brakes. Like, I appreciate, you being honest about this not being a good time. And you can try again in the future. Like, that doesn't mean that it's a no, we can never have this. Like, just start slowly, kind of get your feet wet and see what works for you.
Yes, I love this. Like, even writing a couple of your favorite ones down on little things and putting them in a jar, and it becomes a like weekly thing that you do, or monthly thing or whatever. And you pick one, and it makes it less like you're responsible for the question that's currently being asked. So like, and I'm not saying throw the 5s in there. That's probably not the best way to go about the 5s, but like with some of the lighter ones, take the pressure off of yourself of choosing a question by making it into a game, kind of like making it a little bit lighthearted. So I love that. Wow, I can't even tell you like where my brain is at right now. I am super pumped for this book to come out. Like, I'm super, super joyed. And yeah, wow, like my brain, I can't. So, okay. So before we wrap this up, something I like to discuss with everybody that comes on this podcast is the word success. Okay. So I am definitely here to talk about success and what it means and what it does not mean. And so I love to chat with other women entrepreneurs to hear what they think when they hear the word success, or how they measure their success or whatever. So tell me what your vibe is with success.
It was, oh gosh. So this question is really hard for me to answer. And the reason is because, so those of you who are familiar with the Enneagram, I'm an Enneagram 2, but I have a super strong wing 3, which we were talking about earlier. And wing 3 are people who are super perfectionists. Like they like everything done the way they like them done. Like I describe to people, if you've ever seen the show New Girl and Parks and Rec, like if Jessica Day and Leslie Knope had a baby, that would be me. And so when I was asked this question, the wing 3, the perfectionist in me had a really hard time admitting what success was, because this is a work in progress for me. So as an Enneagram 2, the helper, anytime I can positively impact someone's life, that is success to me. That is an accomplishment to me. But the struggle for me is I don't view helping one person and 100 people the same way. I think that helping 100 people is so much better than helping one. And that's something that I need to reframe with my success is anytime that I have an opportunity to positively help someone, that is a success, period. It should not be tied to numbers. And in my mind, a lot of times it is. And so it's something that I'm actually working on, but knowing that my ultimate goal is to just be able to help someone move their life forward, to positively impact them.
I just want to point out that Diana just admitted that she's human.
Yes.
We are all human. We all think that 100 is better than 1. Even my 4-year-old thinks 100 is better than 1.
Yeah.
Like, wake up. You're human. This is okay. But the fact is she's acknowledging that, and she knows that that is a trigger for her, and that is something that she works on. Okay. So she's human, guys, just like the rest of us. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that just so amazing?
Yes. Oh god.
All right. So Diana, thank you so much for joining me today to open up this conversation, to talk about the book. I know that anyone listening to this is also going to be freaking stoked. I cannot wait. So listeners are totally vibing with this, and you know, they want more because we're human. We all want more.
100 is better than 1.
Where can they find you? How's the best way to get in touch with you? And most importantly, how can they get the damn book?
Absolutely. So my favorite place to hang out is on Instagram. So go follow me on Instagram. It's at Diana_Marie_Keller. I almost forgot my name there. You can also find me on Facebook. I have my Facebook page. So it's facebook.com/Diana Marie Keller author. My podcast, Keep Moving Forward, can be found on all of your favorite podcasting platforms. My website is dianamariekiller.com. And if you are near the Cincinnati, Ohio area, or if you just want to take a weekend trip, maybe hit up some breweries, like I am doing about 15 different live events over the next month and a half. And if you go to my website, again, dianamariekiller.com, I have all of the events listed on there, same as on my Facebook page. And then when my book is available, August 18th is the pre-order date. You can find it on Amazon.
Yes. Oh my God. Awesome. You guys, I know that was a lot of information. I will link out all of that shit in the show notes.
All of it.
I promise you guys it will be easy for you to find. Diana, thank you so much. I literally cannot tell you how freaking excited I am, not only for the book to come out, but to watch this journey for you. I'm really excited to just watch it all unfold and watch where it takes you, because I really, really do feel strongly from this conversation that you are so invested in that journey, and that is so inspiring to me, and I know it's going to be inspiring for other people. So thank you guys so much for listening, and we will chat with you guys later.
Bye.